Well, I was here 7 years ago when it first came to Brisbane. It's back again in this post-COVID era, which is absolutely fantastic to see so many people around having a great time. The World Science Festival, with thanks to the Southbank Corporation. We are down here on the foreshore, enjoying it all. And today I'm kicking off a week of podcasts. Doctors Benjamin Pope and Jesse Christiansen are going to be joining me to chat all things James Webb and exoplanets.
This is Trekzone's Talkin' Science.
Well, I'm incredibly thrilled to be kicking off this week of Talk and Science interviews with Doctors Benjamin Pope and Jesse Christiansen. Guys, welcome to Trekzone. Thanks for coming back, Ben, and welcome, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, guys, you've just come from a little bit of a talk about James Webb. People have been around and getting all of this science experience. What's it like to be seeing these people out and about and checking everything out?
Look, honestly, I'm actually blown away. We've got all this sort of time on radio and on your podcast, booked partially to promote our talks for tomorrow. They're sold out. There's no point promoting them. And I'm actually a little bit shocked. I'm a little bit shocked, we've sold out 2 shows on James Webb and Exoplanets at QPAC. They're large theatres. I'm really, humbled by the enthusiasm of Brisbane people to listen to science and talk about science.
It is very cool, Jesse. Now, you're living in LA at the moment. You're back, but you are a bit of a local as well, I believe.
That's right. I grew up in a small town just 20 minutes south of Ipswich, so it's great to be back. And Brisbane has really turned it on for the festival today. It's a gorgeous, if a little bit sticky day.
It is absolutely incredible. It's March weather. To quote a Simpsons line, I guess it's smarch weather. But James Webb, this telescope, long delayed, so many issues with it, finally launching, and we're just getting these discoveries straight away. To either of you, what's that kind of like, just to see all of that blood, sweat and tears finally pay off for everyone?
It's really incredible. As you say, it was delayed again and again and again, and at some points it was even cut entirely and had to be rescued from the cutting room floor of the budget at the White House. But it launched on Christmas Day in 2021, which was just a genuine gift for astronomers, and especially exoplanet astronomers. And, since they took the first 6 months to do the commissioning, the data have just been coming down, and they're just so much better than we even dreamed. And that's the really exciting part.
And that's been an incredible journey to follow with Talk and Science, our news podcast each week. Dr. Brad Tucker was with us last year talking about all those milestones that we were getting through 2021 and just beyond, with that commissioning, with those alignment images just being even better than could have been predicted. Yeah. And then just these discoveries that are following on from TESS and Kepler, and it is incredible. Jesse, you're with the archive side of exoplanets. Talk us through a little bit of what that entails.
Sure. So I'm the project scientist for the NASA Exoplanet Archive. And what we try to do is to capture everything we find out about exoplanets, what we know about them, the stars they orbit, the systems they're in, their atmospheres, which is what's going to explode with JWST. We're finally going to have all of this information about their atmospheres. So at the archive, we're basically just keeping our eyes out every day for new JWST results so that we can grab them and put them in.
And Ben, for you, at UQ, as an exoplanet researcher, finding new discoveries, I think what I love most doing Talk and Science is that old data can be reanalyzed with new techniques, and things can be discovered as well. For you, what does it mean to have all of this technology and satellites available now?
I mean, it's super, super exciting. I started my PhD more than 10 years ago now, simulating what we were going to do with James Webb. And I have to confess that it's felt surreal since it launched, because for so long there were these delays, there were these problems. You read about all these, crises with the budget and all of that. And I sort of never believed it would happen. And if it did happen, it wouldn't be quite what we'd hoped. And instead, it's actually too good. One of the little crises we're going through at the moment is that James Webb actually has a higher light gathering efficiency than even the most optimistic predictions, right? And we were looking at targets in our schedule that were absolutely the brightest things that it could look at. And now they're overexposed, right? They're washed out, and so we have to find different targets. And it's been in this little mini crisis. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Because it's about $100,000 an hour to run James Webb. $100,000 an hour, and so.
So if you look at the wrong target,
if you look at the wrong
expensive.
thing, people get really mad at you. And so, it's been a really exciting journey we thought we were ready for this. We've got our first data came down last week for our project. One of the data sets is really, really good. It's probably got the best ever images of it's a system called PDS-70, which is a system of accreting protoplanets, so actually planets that are busy pulling material out of the disks from which they're formed and actively forming planets and their moon systems, like two little Jupiters being born. And so that's sort of part of a program that we're doing to monitor planets at the moment of their formation in these disks of gas and dust from which they're born. One of these, images has come down and it's just really, really beautiful. But there's also these issues where the detector has all these subtle effects, and actually people don't really appreciate with modern astronomy how much of it's a software game as opposed to just the hardware. And so even though I'm completely confident we're going to get really amazing images out of these, we weren't quite prepared for the detailed sort of problems that would happen with James Webb images, even though in some respects it's better than expected. In other respects we go, oh, how do we deal with that? And we're going to get there. And people have already built this huge environment of open source software for analysing James Webb, which really democratizes it. It's all public. This is one of the wonderful things about NASA is all their data become public very quickly, so you can just go contribute to open source software development for improving these products.
And there has been some discoveries, I think, off Hubble data with citizen scientists as well, which is just all of these, and it's just absolutely fantastic. As you say, the democratization of the science technology. And also, as well, I think what I love from an astronomy point of view is the fact that this is a space-based telescope, so you don't have to wait for nighttime, so you can get some good sleep patterns.
You don't have to worry about the atmosphere either.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can see beautiful, beautiful detail where the stars twinkling from the ground would really just wash it all out.
Although I will say, going from being an astronomer who worked on ground-based observatories to going to be an astronomer working on space-based data, it's much less romantic. I love driving to the telescope and sitting there in the dark of night with the dome open, getting data. Now I just wait for an email from the archive saying, here's your data.
Well,
And
you
I'm
were
like,
at the
okay.
South Pole though, weren't you? I mean, that's pretty romantic.
Yes, that was pretty cool, as they say.
I love it. And Jesse, I think there's also a bit of a Star Trek connection with you as well, because the Trekzone started out as Star Trek and science fiction. It's moved into science and space now as well. You were telling me off air that you got to do something that I wish that I was able to do just a couple of weeks ago.
Sure. So, living in LA and being an astronomer, you get connected to a bunch of very, very cool things. And so I got invited to the Star Trek Picard premiere, and I got to watch Patrick Stewart thank all the cast and crew, and I was sitting 3 seats away from Will Wheaton. It was incredible. It was really, really amazing to be there. I was very lucky.
Full of stars, LA. Unfortunately, not the right kind of stars for your work. I really do wonder how they go with the Griffith Observatory with so much light pollution.
You'd be surprised. I mean, the Griffith Observatory isn't a research observatory, but actually one of my PhD students is working with data from CHARA, the Centre for High Angular Resolution Astronomy, on Mount Wilson, right overlooking where, Jesse lives in Pasadena. And, you'd think the light pollution's a serious problem, but we mainly focus on bright stars. We look at very, very high resolutions where that's less of an issue because, you get rid of that by sort of resolving out patches of the sky, right? And CHARA is really one of the world's leading observatories for very high resolution imaging. You'd be surprised.
Let's bring it back to exoplanets.
Yeah.
It's what you're here for. Some great discoveries. We're finding Earth-shaped planets. Speaking of Star Trek, are we sort of coming up with a class-based system to categorize these exoplanets yet?
That's a really fun question. So actually, someone did try to establish a Class M, Class L type of system for planets. It didn't stick, unfortunately, partly because the original classification turns out to have been a bit arbitrary, and those are not two distinct classes of planets. But someone did try 15 years ago to see if they could make that work, and it didn't, unfortunately. So we actually use much more descriptive but boring names. So we have hot Jupiters, and we have hot Neptunes, and we have super Earths. They're more descriptive but actually much less cool.
What I love is that the Star Trek is such a background for a lot of scientists, and that's sort of the inspiration to get into the field. Is there that kind of link for you, Jesse? I think so.
Can we talk about Vulcan?
Yes,
I want to
absolutely.
talk about Vulcan if you want to talk about Star Trek.
Well, and I think also too, recently it's been announced that it's not going
That's right. I'm so sad. I remain sad to this day. So in 2016, astronomers found a signal of a planet orbiting the star 40 Eridani A. And so my job at the archive is I have to put planets into the archive. And I was putting this planet in, and I was like, 40 Eridani A, why does that sound familiar? And I'd love to be able to say I managed to draw it out of the memory bank, but I just Googled it. It's Vulcan's homeworld. It's where Spock's from. It's Vulcan. Vulcan orbits 40 Eridani A. And I'm like, we found a planet around 40 Eridani A. That's so exciting. That was super cool. I love finding real-world analogs of science fictional planets when I'm working at the archive. And then just recently, they've gotten more data on the signal that they saw around 40 Eridani A, and they've actually proven that it's not a planet, it's actually stellar activity. The star is doing its own thing, and it just happened to look like a planet. So it's actually been refuted. It's not a real planet. That doesn't mean there aren't rocky planets around 40 Eridani A. There's still space for something like Vulcan, for Spock's homeworld to exist, but the planet we thought we there is not there.
I think it's almost akin to what happened with Pluto all those years ago, being demoted off its planetary.
Pluto got reclassified. Pluto still exists.
Well, yeah, but is it now a planet? I think it's a planetoid now, isn't it?
It's a dwarf planet.
A dwarf planet,
yes.
That's
so,
right. Yeah, the poor thing.
I don't know. It gets to be the archetype of a brand new type of object. That it gets to be the example everyone holds up. This is Pluto, the first dwarf planet.
That's perfect, because I was trying to find it, because I was always giving Dr. Brad a lot of hard time over the declassification of Pluto. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine, but hey, that's a good way to put it, Jesse. I love the enthusiasm there.
Silver lining.
You've always got to look for that silver lining. Guys, what's next? We've got this data set coming. What are we kind of looking for next with exoplanets and James Webb?
So I think the real thing that people are hoping James Webb's going to do, for the most part for exoplanets, is measure the composition of their atmospheres. You could just about do this with a bit of a tailwind, if you were lucky, with the Hubble Space Telescope for very large nearby planets. And the results were okay, but a little unreliable sometimes. James Webb completely nails them, right? And so we're going from sort of an era where people have a lot of theories about how exoplanet atmospheres might behave to one where we're going to have a lot of data, where we're going to really know what is the composition of this planet's atmosphere? What even is the weather like? What are the wind patterns? What's the circulation patterns? How are the cloud patterns? Recently, one of these planets was found to have patchy clouds at dusk.
My husband actually gives me crap because he says we're just all becoming exometeorologists, right? It's all just weather on exoplanets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's weather on exoplanets. That's still really cool.
Yeah.
Is it as predictable as Earth-based meteorology?
Not yet, but that's what we're hoping JWST will help with.
They often use the same models, In fact, one of the leading families of models is actually by the UK Met Office. It's the same thing that they use to predict weather on Earth. Literally the same software is used to predict weather on other planets.
Just incredible, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go because there is more World Science Festival stuff to do. Ben, Jesse, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing what's next with James Webb and exoplanets.